notification to come up on my screen. I didn't get one yet that we're live. Must be. All right, what's up and welcome back. I'm Ash, and this is the Embodied Mind podcast, where we talk about health, fitness, and the role of the mind and the body, all as one big thing. I'm here with my partner in crime, Prince Bell. Prince, what's up this week?
What's up, man? I'm good. I'm good. How are you?
I'm all right. I'm just trying to, like I was telling you before we started recording, I've had like a brutal last 2 weeks, so I'm kind of behind on everything. But I got two more big days to get through. Well, yesterday was one, and then another one tomorrow, and then after that, like my schedule is going to even out a little bit, so I can kind of get back into like a good rhythm to where I'm not going kind of so crazy, because it's like it got really hot here for like last week. Actually, overall, because of the volcanoes, I don't know if you caught my post on Facebook, but because of the volcanoes, I think. But I was talking to a friend of mine who's a meteorologist, and he agreed that the weather is super mild this year here in Arizona because of the volcanoes putting up some ash into the atmosphere. So it kind of like acts like a little bit of sunscreen. And so actually, I think yesterday it was only like a high of 102, which for this time of year,
Yeah.
because I mean yesterday was the last day of June, so the first and second week of July is usually like peak heat for the summer. So usually like all this week, all this coming week would be in the neighborhood of like 115, and then next week we would peak out like around 118, probably like maybe 120 if it was going to be like super hot summer.
Yeah.
And then usually like after the second week in July, the monsoons will hit, and then the rains will come in and cool everything off, and it'll get down to like 105 or maybe 110, but it'll be humid. We'll get like rain in the evenings. But yeah, I mean, like I said, is that we were at like 102, and we should have been at like 110 already. So it's been super mild, but not this past week, but the week before it was like 110, 111, and I spent a lot of time outside, and it was brutal. So I'm looking forward to things kind of like slowing down a little bit next week. How's the new job working out?
Man, it's great, and I'm part because it seems like I'm not being truthful. Like, you
Oh,
know,
it's
so I'm really good at what I do. With the Department of Children's Services. So it's like, even though I've been gone 3 years, like the first year I was a chaplain working with kids in state custody, and then the other 2 years working with special needs kids, I would every now and then interact with kids either in custody or receiving services. So it's like I've always been affiliated with the department, even though I wasn't directly working with them. So I haven't really forgotten anything. So that's why I paused, because it's like I've been gone 3 years, and a lot of the people that were new when I left that I helped train, they're like supervisors, managers, and and I haven't really forgotten anything. So now I'm sitting there with brand new people, and the lady who's training, actually, she came on right, like, probably the week that I left. I think she was in training or something. I don't remember. But anyway, so she'll like go over something and then ask questions, and she's like, "Prince, don't answer. Prince, don't answer that." And if I have a question, she's like, "Prince, can you wait till the break? Because I think you're going to confuse everybody." But I mean, other than that, I'm enjoying it. It's cool whenever the training instructors need to step out. I'm there to help people with stuff. And I'm getting into a routine. I was going to say, I don't know, this is more training. I don't know if we wanted to wait 2 weeks. start talking training. But like right now, I'm trying to not crash after I get off work. Like when I get home, I just want to veg out completely. But part of that is because I got some new cooking appliances. So it's like I get home and then I'm running to the store and then cooking, and then I'll get more into that when we start talking training. But yeah, it's going great, man. I think I made a good decision in going back and working, giving myself some additional income so that we can build this podcast. I can build up the training thing, and maybe we can get some kind of embodied mind nutrition service or coaching or something. I don't know. Y'all have to stay tuned to see what we do with that.
Right. But yeah, so is it letting you like get back into training like the way that you wanted to?
Yeah, like right now, I won't be on my actual schedule until September. So like right now, I get up. Well, I had to start getting up earlier just because it was taking me. They have this thing about tardiness. Like if you're 1 minute late, you're late. Because that's when we have to we literally have to start working the minute we come on shift. And so they try to set that. Dang, is it about the storm? They try to set that during training, even though we're not actually doing real work. So I get up 5:30 now. Try to start my workout by 5:45, 5:50. If it takes me an hour, then I'm by 7 o'clock I'm getting ready for work so I can get out the door. I just live 5 minutes from my office, but I live like right outside downtown,
Right.
where so everybody who works for the state is like, it's crazy. Like some days I'm like, I just need to ride my bike to work.
Right.
So I don't have to sit behind all these cars. I can just weave. I kind of want an electric motorcycle or something.
Yeah, I've been thinking about getting the skates with 129 millimeter wheels so that I could do some short commutes with that, because actually I think it would be just as faster than a bike and more mobile. And as long as you have like the 129 millimeter wheels are the ones that are real big wheels. So it's like if you can go like over small like rocks or pebbles and stuff, or sometimes even like road blade through the grass with them, kind of for the same thing.
All right, man. I'm trying to send this to a Facebook group where they're like trying to learn how to live stream and stuff. So I'm still here. Once I get this sent,
yeah. So as far as training goes, I'm on hold. I have been actually. Can totally see you. We can see you. Everyone can see you.
who is that?
That's my wife on the floor.
Oh, I didn't see. I was on another screen, so I didn't.
I didn't see. She was trying to like crawl in like under the camera. Like, did you see the thing like that BBC video that went viral? Because like the guy was like all set up in his den and he's all like interviewing on on the BBC, and then like his 2-year-old opens up the door to the den and like runs in, and then the nanny like tries to run in and get the kid, and she's all like trying to crawl like underneath the camera, but you can still totally see like everything that's going on.
Yeah. No, I haven't seen that, but I did a Star Wars like group hangout with some other Star Wars people on YouTube with Chris Perillo, and his daughter's name actually is Jedi.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and like her name is Jedi, but the letters are all like, it's like the D is Diana, his wife, and then it's like the JEDI, whatever. Like all of the letters are the letters in Chris's mom, Diana's mom, like the great grandmother. So it's like an acronym of all of the women.
right.
in the family, and it just happened to spell Jedi. But anyway, so Jedi runs in her diaper because Diana's like trying to change her, and she was trying to get on camera and stuff. And back then, Jedi couldn't talk yet.
Right.
So then she it's like, hey, and all of this, and trying to talk, but she's not actually saying anything in the middle of the live stream. And I was like, hey, man, let's just let Jedi run the whole live stream. I was like, they'd rather see her anyway than us.
Right.
And then like Diana came and got her, and she started crying. But now Jedi's talking. I should hit up Chris and be like, hey, man, I know I'm like kind of trying to fade out of Star Wars, but anytime you want to link up and talk Star Wars and have Jedi on, I'd love to do it. But
right.
actually, just stick Jedi on there. We just sit there not say anything.
All right. Just a 2-hour live stream of
Jedi
toddler shenanigans.
Yeah, she's talking really. I mean, like, be like, Jedi, who is this? Kylo Ren. Jedi, who is this? That's Rey. All right. Jedi, who is this? Sarko Plate. Who? She knows everybody, man.
So we were starting to talk about like how the new schedule is working out, if you were able to get back into training or not, the way that you were hoping to.
Yeah, that's where I said I was holding off till we start talking training. So the last, actually, since we started the podcast, I've been like debating, because I said, like, you know, I want to start back training clients. I want to do the Strong Body Challenge that I got from Dave Whitley. It's a program he used to run when his gym was downtown before he moved back out to Cool Springs. And it's basically a transformation program, kind of weight loss. I have this thing where I don't like to make people do something that I haven't done.
Right.
So I kept going back and forth. I'm like, well, it's a specificity principle. And so I finally decided, like Friday, since I do these morning workouts before I go to work, I'm like, you know what? I want to do powerlifting. I've been debating on doing this program. Why not? I do one power lift a day and do the Strong Body Challenge. And I'm done in 30, 45 minutes. I only have about an hour to work out before I have to get ready to go to the office. And then all the martial arts stuff, the GMB stuff, do that in the afternoon while I'm still on this, 8 to 4:30 schedule. So that's where I said, like, I got to stop coming home and like vegging out and playing with my Instant Pot and my air fryer, cooking stuff. I just need to say, okay, put this on, have it cooking while I'm in there getting it done. So that's the goal for this week, is do my 5x5 list, roll right into the Strong Body Challenge, kettlebells, body weight, suspension training. This monster is making me about to belch.
What's the specifics of the Strong Body program? I haven't heard of that one.
You
said that's Dave Whitley's program?
Yeah, it's mostly kettlebells.
Okay.
It's traditional stuff, swings, get-ups, cleans, presses. And then there's like a body weight component. It's really, I have a program that I wrote myself, and what Dave did is not very far off from what something that I had written that I wanted to test with people. Mm-hmm. And so I kept looking, and I'm like, his program's already created. I know he gets results with it. I can just run with this. And then when I get tired of it, then I can, or I can be tweaking my own program. If I have a lot of results with it, though, I kind of want to talk to Dave about the Amazing 12, which it's like a total transformation program. It's expensive to get the certification and to do it, but I'm like,
who's that through?
What is that guy? It's a guy in Ireland. I can't, you know what? I'm sitting right here. I can Google it.
Right.
You should check this guy's videos out. Why am I typing Google? Amazing 12. I was about to type Google the Amazing 12. The only thing is like it's so many Amazing 12 people. Paul McElroy, that's his name. There's so many Amazing 12 coaches in Tennessee. It's like you look at Amazing 12 people all over the country, and then there's like 8 of them in Tennessee. It might be 30 in America, and 8 of them are in Tennessee. So, and then 6 out of that 8 might be in Nashville. All because those are all people that Dave taught.
Yeah, I pulled up their page right now.
Yeah, but it's like it's not just a transformation program, but people like improve their lifts, like they get stronger too. So I'm really intrigued on how you're transforming people and they're getting stronger, like physical transformations, and they get like significantly stronger. Because when Dave first did it, he had his assistant Melissa. She was already ripped and like strong, and she did it as like his test person before she got married. And she was like even more ripped after the 12 weeks were up. And so that pretty much like, what are they doing? I kind of want to check this out. And then when I went, because that's like all Dave does now, he teaches like one Amazing 12 class a day when he runs it. And he doesn't do it like, he does like 4 of them a year, 3 or 4. And then the rest is his online clients.
Right.
Those of y'all who are watching, we're kind of talking like business stuff, like how trainers who are like really doing it are running their business now, where they're not tied to their business, exchanging dollars for hours, right? Working, letting their business work for them versus working in their business. So anyway, back on
right. Well, there's the difference between a business and a job.
Yeah. So like Dave runs this program. I'll let you go.
Oh, I was just saying, a business makes money whether you work or not. Like a job, you only get paid. Like, or a business, you get paid whether you work or not. A job, you don't. You only get paid when you work.
Yeah.
So go ahead. What you're saying?
So yeah, like the program, it sells itself. Like, you know, they say after you learn this stuff, do it, put yourself through it, have a couple of test people. Hopefully you find a way for them to pay you while you're training them for the 3 months. You link up with a photographer, professional photographer. That's part of the glam. You know, you get a professional photo shoot before and afters, and people come out looking amazing. You talk about, oh, well, they increased their bench press by 50 pounds in 3 months, something like that. Their deadlift went up 35 pounds in 3 months. This person couldn't do a pull-up. Now they can do 5 strict pull-ups. You know, stuff like that. People see the transformations. Person's ripped, they're lean. I read one guy, he did the whole Amazing 12 thing, and he didn't even change his diet until like the last 2 weeks. And he looked amazing. Of course, he was also a trainer,
right?
But still,
yeah. I mean,
so I'd say that because he was probably eating somewhat clean, you know, through the whole thing, but he like got strict the last 2 weeks before his photo shoot.
I mean, there's Dave right there in this video that I'm watching.
Yeah, he went through the first like certification.
Because I think they have a video up here, like what strength coaches are saying about the Amazing 12. Yeah, and I see Dave's right there. Now, the only thing is, like, usually, I mean, like these like wicked transformations in 12 weeks are, I don't want to say that they're bullshit, but most of the time they're bullshit. Yeah. So, you know, it's like it kind of sets an unrealistic expectation of, like, you know, because it's like people didn't get into the kind of shape that they're in, like, in overnight or in 12 weeks, and it's usually going to take you a lot more than 12 weeks to, I mean, depending on like how much you have to, you know, to lose. So, you know, like my myself right now, like I got my diet got a little bit loose over the last like couple of months because it was like the precision nutrition training got like really intense, and it
Hmm.
was like everything else, everything else that I had going on was crazy, and so I gained like a little bit of weight that I don't need and don't want. So I'm probably even floating around. Uh, I'm definitely over 20% body fat right now.
Hmm.
And I mean, even for me, I think probably if I was super strict uh, for 12 weeks, I might be able to drop 10% body fat. But I mean, if somebody is like, you know, 30 or 35% body fat, to for them to expect to be able to get shredded in 12 weeks is not going to
Not,
happen.
yeah, it's not gonna happen. Yeah, and I've seen people who done Amazing 12 and no, they're not shredded by the end. I had a high school classmate who went through, and I mean, she wasn't shredded, but you could tell that there was a difference. Some of the most dramatic transformations I've seen, they've gone through multiple times. Like they did, it wasn't 12 weeks; it was more like 36
30,
weeks.
36 weeks.
Yeah,
Yeah, they do like
uh,
three in a row.
yeah, they did three
Uh,
cycles.
yeah, but I mean, it's like, of course, I mean, it's marketing, so,
Yeah,
take it with a grain of salt. But of course, they're
yeah.
putting their best foot forward because it's like all these videos that I'm looking at, like, most of everybody, like even these chicks, are
Lighting,
shredded.
professional photography. Like I said, you want to link up with a professional photographer. I
Right,
said that. I was kind
right,
of giving it away. If you go a step further and get a spray tan or spend some time on a tanning bed, shave your body hair,
right. And
you
just
know,
the right angle, just the right lighting.
yeah. Don't drink any
So,
water the day of or the day before.
right, like
Nope.
cut water, get like super shredded for
Yeah.
your photos or for the video or whatever.
Yeah.
So I mean,
So there's
that's
tips and tricks.
right, and that's things that like like regular people should be aware of.
Yeah.
You know, because like I don't know if you caught like the other day that this kind of like my mind just went like in 10 different directions. Because it's like when my kids, right, like if they'll take like a, let's say they have a headache or something like that, and
Mm-hmm.
so I'll give them like an electrolyte mix first
Mm-hmm.
before I give them any it's like get hydrated first before you take any pills, and then if like in 20 minutes you still have a headache, then I'll give you like a pill, but let's address like the basic thing first.
Yeah.
And then it's like when they were younger, that they've learned now, but like when they were younger, they'd be like, okay, well, here's they'd slam the electrolyte solution. They'd be like, no, I still have a headache. I'm like, it's medicine,
Yeah.
not it's medicine. It's not magic, right?
Yeah.
Like you gotta give it like a little bit of time to kick in.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think like that's my beef with like the 12-week transformation type stuff, is because then it's like everyone, it sets the expectations of like as if it's magic, right? Like
Yeah.
instant results. And
Or
then
that,
when
that's the standard. All you gotta
right,
do is 3 months, you have brand new body.
right, and then when that doesn't happen, then they get frustrated and they give up, right? So, and that's what I don't know if you had caught like my post on Instagram about how like people, when they're trying to make that transition from eating like junk to eating like better, that they're looking for like some kind of like stimulus
Mm,
from their, it's like, okay, here's my healthy meal, and then I eat that and nothing, right?
yeah.
Because actually what I was saying was that it's like, like good nutrition actually is like invisible, right? It's the squeaky hinge is the one that you notice, right? Like when things are doing their job, like in the Matrix, right? Like when the Oracle was talking to Neo. She's like, oh, all the programs that are doing their job, you don't never notice them.
Yeah.
They're invisible. It's the ones that aren't doing their job is the ones that you notice.
Yeah.
And so, it's like, it's like good nutrition should be the same way. It's like, it's just covering your bases, right? And then it's like when something's not working right, that's what you would notice. But I think that people are used to experiencing some kind of like stimulus from their food, especially if they're using food to eat like emotionally.
Yeah.
And they're using their food and they're eating to self-soothe, as a coping mechanism. Then there is like sort of like a response, right? It's like, oh, I'm so stressed out, I'm going to eat like this giant bag of chips.
Yeah.
And then I get like that rush of dopamine because I engaged in my behavior, that like that behavior reward sort of pattern. And they do have like a brief like rush or brief stimulus, so it's like then when you transition over to trying now to eat more like nutritious, I guess, or wholesome, or however we want to say it. It's like you're getting away from the junk, right?
Yeah.
And then they don't get that, especially when they didn't replace like their coping mechanism. They didn't change their mindset and find a different way to deal with like their stressors. And then they give up because then they eat the thing, right? And they don't get the response, and then they give up on like, oh, it didn't transform my body overnight. I ate for a whole week and I didn't lose any weight, or I don't see my abs in the mirror yet. This has taken a lot longer, and I gave up my coping mechanism. I'm going to give up, right? This is not working for me. So, I think that's why I said like it's part of, like what I would like to do with the show is to help like change people's expectations and the mindset, right? It's like helping to change the mindset of like what you can expect from like a change in lifestyle, like moving away from like being sedentary to active, moving away from a diet that's like real heavy and processed foods to like a more natural food kind of diet. Like what's it going to take? What's the cost? What's the expectation? What's the benefit? What's the payout? Because I think right now, like I said, because of all and it's marketing, because it's what sells, right? Of course, like a 12-week program, because then it's like, right, it's a micro commitment then.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I think the other part of that particular 12-week program, and this is something that looking back on my past training, is I would have people that would buy sessions. Here's a week session. Here's a month session. And it's like, look, this is a program. Program is 12 weeks long, right? It's in three cycles or 3 phases. Each month is a different phase. This is what you're signing up for. And I don't know what goes into the marketing. If you might say, hey, to get the results you really want, you might need to do the program more than once, but you're signing up for this. I don't know why it sounds like I got like cars pulling in my driveway. Anyway, I don't know if you can hear that.
No,
That's why I
can't hear
keep
it on my
stopping
end.
and like looking. But anyway, like you have somebody, I'm here for a week, I'm here for 2 weeks, I'm here for a month, and it's like, to get the results that you want, I need at least three months. I need 6 months.
Right,
it might take you 2 years to get to where you want to be. And I remember when first starting out, I knew that, but I was afraid to tell people. There's a rant that this lady posted, like 7 years ago on YouTube. And I woke up last week thinking about that, and I went back and watched the video where she was like, oh, personal trainers, all they care about is their money. I go and talk to them in the consultation, and all they say is I can lose 1 to 2 pounds a week. I know I can lose way more than that. I can lose like 20 pounds in it or something. And I'm like, yeah, and you can lose that. You go to see Pookie on the corner, smoke you some crack, and you can lose 20. Now you might, because you're gonna be so high that you don't eat anything. You might
Right.
get fired from your job because all you want to do is smoke crack with Pookie on the corner.
Right.
But if you want to lose weight the right way, 1 to 2 pounds a week is the best estimate I can give you, without knowing your body, without getting into hormonal changes, changing your mind, changing your approach. And anyway, she was like, screw these personal trainers. I'm going to this HCG clinic. And she posted that video in like 2011. And then I went and saw her most recent video. She's still 280 freaking pounds.
Right.
So obviously the HCG clinic that she went to in 2011 did not work. She's still fat. She still hasn't changed her mindset or anything else. So,
Right.
it's like,
Well, because it ends up being like that mindset is like the it's all the soft, like sticky stuff that makes the difference. It's like the science is fairly hard and clean, right? But it's like all the psychology is the soft, sticky stuff, and that's what really gets people, like what really trips people up, because like for one reason or another, it's like you've gotten to where you're at with your health like today through like a series of patterns, right? And up until that point, it's like those patterns have worked well enough for you to accomplish like some other like day-to-day goal. So maybe, it's like I mean, maybe you are working 2 jobs, so it's like by the time you get home, you don't have time to like prep any meals or anything like that, because you're gonna go to bed and get 4 hours of sleep before you get up and go back and do it again the next day. So, it's like if you haven't addressed a sleep issue, your schedule, you can't just like transition into like, okay, now I'm gonna do something and lose like a whole bunch of weight or whatever. And then the other thing that I was talking about too is like when you're talking about smoking crack was like, it's like body, right? Body composition is important. So it's like just focusing on the scale weight by itself is not necessarily that useful. So, because like, so for instance, I just started messing around with keto, and just because I was curious. So about, it's like up till now, I wasn't necessarily like a super big fan of like low carb. And,
can
but I
you
thought,
can you explain to the audience who don't know, who's listening, like what like a keto
right.
plan is, or keto dieting?
So basically, a ketogenic diet is basically is a low carb diet, but you can't. It's not low carb and low calorie, right? It's like low carb and then just enough of it. If it depends on what your goals are, right? If you're gonna lose weight or gain muscle, whatever. But let's assume, for the purpose, since we've been talking about losing weight, that you're gonna be in a small like deficit as far as not eating quite as many calories as normal. So that means you need to replace those carbohydrates with fat. So sometimes they talk about it as being like a low carb, high fat diet, but it's any diet that you're eating that is low enough in carbohydrates that your body starts to produce what they call ketones. So normally, if you're not in ketosis, your body is running on glucose, on blood sugar, and usually it's on, it'll be stored in the muscles and in the liver as glycogen, which then it will release and turn into blood sugar, and then your blood sugar kind of stays like at a nice steady level. Whereas when you move into ketosis, you're releasing those or you're creating those ketones from stored body fat. And then a certain percentage of those ketones will get converted into glucose, because the brain runs only on glucose. Actually, I think it does. The ketones will pass into the brain, but I mean, your blood sugar doesn't go down to zero, but it does drop when you're in when you're in ketosis. But anyway, it's a less efficient process, right? Because then it's like your body has to convert the stored body fat, it has to release the stored body fat, convert it into ketones and some into glucose, which they call, as the process is called gluconeogenesis, is making new sugar from stored body fat. And so since it's like a less efficient process and it's like more energy, more energy gets lost in the process. And so most people like to use ketosis right now, or a ketogenic diet right now for losing weight. Although it does have some really good like therapeutic uses, especially for epileptics and also for diabetics. But it's also supposed to be really good for reducing inflammation in the body. So since it's such a popular diet right now, I wanted to give it a try just so that I had like firsthand experience with it. If like in the future I have like nutrition clients that they ask me like, oh, should I go keto? Then I can tell them like from my own firsthand experience, like this is what you can expect. This is what, like how the financial impact that it may or may not have on you. It's going to be the social impact that it may or may not have on you, which is one of the things, again, that I think like, so going back to like talking about the Amazing 12 program again and seeing some of the results of the people who did get super shredded, it's like there's going to be a cost that's associated with getting lean like that, and it's not just a financial cost, right? It's going to be a cost on your lifestyle, because like you're not just going to like be able to get up and roll out of bed in the morning and roll out the door anymore, right? Unless you just happen to have like a keto friendly, for example, restaurant that's like right near you, like all the time, like on demand somehow, or if you use like a meal delivery service that somebody's going to be bringing those meals to you. So that means like it's going to change your lifestyle, because you're going to have to start taking the time to prep, and have things ready to go. It's like you can't just expect like the right food to like be jumping out of the fridge into your mouth, on demand anymore. And also then that means it's going to affect like your social life, right? So like we've talked about this before, where you've told me about some of the difficulties that you've had with being a vegetarian, like going to the church barbecues, right?
Yeah, well, not the church bar, but like school. Well, when I was working in the school system, luckily in my church there are quite a few vegetarians and vegans. So, but I mean, yeah, I mean, even there, it's like if there weren't like Reverend Gail and her husband are vegetarians, so it's like, oh well, the pastor's vegetarian, we got to have vegan vegetarian options. When she retires, there'll still be those options. I work
Right.
in the school system. It's like, well, if you're really hungry, what are you going to do? Because there were days where people were looking at me like, dude, you're eating like the regular school lunch. It's like, well, I'm hungry. I'm gonna like bite one of these kids' heads off if I don't get some food. So I have to, I have to compromise. One thing I don't like is because I'm really, I mean, it helps moving into PN, but I'm kind of dietary agnostic. It's like
Right.
there are things that I prefer to eat, ways that I prefer to eat. But to quote Samiko, who I hope we can have on here one day, I try to eat more for performance than anything else. So it's like if I know I'm hungry, I got something to do. It's like, you know what? I don't eat meat for health reasons. I don't do dairy because I'm lactose intolerant. But if this is all I got to eat, I'm not about to protest and, well, I don't believe in this and this goes against my beliefs. Hey man, I gotta eat, I gotta perform, and I'm gonna eat it. You put a steak in front of me, it might make me sick later because I'm not used to that anymore, but I gotta perform. Right? And if I have a choice, then my choice is I'm gonna eat my fruits and veggies. But you know,
Right.
it's like you said,
But I
everything comes
mean,
with a
even
cost. Well, what are you going to sacrifice to
right,
eat this
right,
way?
and even like for you, like let's say like making that choice, that's fine, right? There's nothing wrong with that, but it does mean that like maybe that you're not going to get as lean,
Yeah.
right? Or you're not going to be able to stay as lean. So the same thing, like the people having like expectations about like what they're going to get out on the other end of like a 12-week program, right? It's like, well, let's even think about like right now, like during that 12 weeks, what's that going to mean? Like there's going to be a cost on your social life, like because either you're not going to be able to make that choice if you want to stick to your program to get those results, or you're going to have to choose to like sacrifice on your program and sacrifice on your results, right?
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
like there's people need to like consider, like if they really want to get like that lean, like what's it worth, right? Because like you may not have the genetics to be that lean. So for instance, like for me, I don't have the genetics to be that lean either. Like even when I was young and I was like really skinny and kind of underweight, I still was like uh, man, I was like 16% body fat, I think, somewhere in there. And at my height, at a little over 6 foot, and I think at the time at my lightest, I was down to 128 pounds, uh, but still at 16% body fat. Of course, I wasn't active then, so that makes a difference. We've talked about that before in some of the other episodes, like your activity levels determine what you do with all your,
Yeah.
with the food that you're eating it. And so yeah, so there's a lot of things for people to consider, especially in terms of like their expectations and what are you willing to sacrifice to get like a certain result. And if you say, so this is like where, going through, you'll see this like if you end up doing like PN2, because like actually PN2 is all about, it's like 0% about actually about nutrition. We don't cover any of it. Like all PN2 is all about coaching and change psychology and like all that kind of stuff. And so it's like, what are you willing to sacrifice to get a certain result? So then now we have to actually talk about like what are your actual values and priorities, right? Because if we start to have a conversation and you start to see like, you know what, maybe I'm not willing to sacrifice on, like let's say I have my date night with my wife on Friday. We go out to dinner, we get dessert, we have a few drinks, and I'm not willing to sacrifice on that. Okay, cool. Uh, then on Sunday, I take the kids out for ice cream after like whatever, and that's a really important family activity to us, and I'm not really willing to budge on that. Okay, cool. Now your values and priorities are here. So it's like here's a value for date night. Here's a value and priority for ice cream on Sunday. So like the value, like the priority of getting lean is like going down,
Yeah.
down, down, down. So, and that's fine. Like there's nothing wrong with that. But it's like when we're starting out, right? And we want to figure out like really where you're at, like we need to understand like where those bars are relative to each other, because that's going to mean all that's going to have like a big impact on like what results you're going to get like on the other end.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's always a cost. It's like what you got to figure out what the trade-off is going to be. Okay, you want to get super lean, you might have to cut out the ice cream, the beer, whatever else. A whole lot of time that you're doing other things, because you got to have recovery time. Got to have time for your workouts. You got to have time to buy the right foods, prepare your meals. If you enjoy that, that's good. But if you have other things you want to do, only 24 hours in a day, you only got one body. Unless, I don't know, some people out there, they might be independently wealthy or something, where they got people to wait on them hand and foot.
Right.
Most most people don't.
So yeah, right, exactly. And so like this morning, so I got up this morning, I went and did my martial arts class. So, and then we finished up with that, and I came home. And as soon as I came home, I grabbed a breakfast that I had like some. It was like a frittata or like a mini like a quiche or something that I had made up. So I grabbed the last. Yeah, I grabbed the last piece of that, and while I was eating that, I was prepping the next one so that you know, like, so I'll have, and I make it up like in a big pan, so I have like the whole week's breakfast like made. You know, it basically takes only a little bit more time to make up one, like for the whole the size that'll last you for the whole week as it does to make up one, right? So then I'll package that up and I'll have it set aside, um, and ready to go, you know, for the week, so that it's like I'm prepped, because especially like with keto, uh, you know, you there's no way to do it without meal prep.
Yeah, I feel that way about anything. Period. Now, my friend Aurora, she's actually from Mesa, but she married a dude from one of my vegan Facebook groups, and now she lives in the UK. But anyway, Aurora used to meal prep every Sunday religiously, and I would make fun of her, but she has lost. Uh, After we get off, or later in the week, I'll send you like one of her transformation pictures. And she now it's like now I'm starting to see the value in it. I'm probably gonna make some vegetable soup uh, after later this evening, and I'm not even gonna think of it as meal prep. I'm gonna make it kind of for my dinner, and then whatever I don't eat, I think I'm gonna put in a bag and freeze it, and that way the next time I have a, oh man, I could go for some vegetable soup, thaw it out. I just did that with like some spicy black beans I made during the week. I put in a big sandwich bag this morning. It's in my deep freezer right here next to me. And I think that's going to be what I'm going to do from now on. So it's like I always have frozen stuff where all I have to do is thaw it out. In the evening, when I get home and start to hit that second workout, doing the body weight stuff, working on Ely Chin stuff, or fall, when hopefully I have those Ely Chin classes going around town, you know, whether it's my day, probably on my days off, so I can be meal prepping for the work days. Okay, I got the frozen stuff that I can throw in and eat while I cook my food for the 2 days on that I'm doing once I hit my regular schedule. So I just feel like it's amazing how I've like done a 180. I feel like if you prep your meals regardless of what eating plan you're on, prep yourself for success, because then it's not, you're less likely to, man, I really want something to eat. I don't feel like eating something. I'm eating these Oreo cookies. Next thing you know, you didn't ate the whole thing instead of just one or two as a reward.
Right.
Or oh well, I'll go eat this bag of chips or something, and you've eaten
Well,
them
and
all
then
because you can't eat just
right, like
one.
the other day, like I was somewhere and you know, somebody had brought, I don't know, like 3 dozen donuts or something like that. And they're like, "Here you go, everybody, help yourself." So if I wasn't prepped and didn't have all my stuff together, right? Like I'd walked out the door and I was not prepared for my day. What do you think the odds are that I would have just said, screw it, like I'll just have a donut, right? But because I was ready, I had my stuff together, right? I had a plan and I had prepared. So then I'm able to say, I don't, not for me, right?
I wonder if there's a way to make keto friendly donuts.
I'm sure you could, but the thing of it is actually, so what I'm finding most interesting so far about this transition into keto is how it's changed my palate.
Mm.
So, like normally, like I don't hide the fact that like I have a sweet tooth normally, right? And so I love, like I love sweet things. I love so it's always like a constant battle of like, I shouldn't have another piece of cheesecake, but right. So like, or I'll hold off, constantly like waiting, like that constant like battle of the will, like I'll have it later. I'll have it later. I won't deny myself, but I'll have it later. Well, since I switched over to this more keto approach, it's killed my sweet tooth. So like I don't have like that constant like sort of itch in my brain, like, oh, I want something sweet. So I'm not even I mean, other people's experience might be different than mine, but like I said, I'm not like trying to think of options to like how can I have like a dessert substitute. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not even worried about like trying to come up with like, which I think is the benefit of, for me at least so far, of like switching over to going more keto, is that I'm not even worried about it anymore, right? So then it's like, because that's one of the biggest things, right? Is that like why people can't or have trouble like sticking to like a diet or whatever, is because one, they're hungry, and so it's like we're hardwired to eat. It's when food is available, it's a survival, it's a survival trait. And then they start feeling deprived because it's like they have, again, it's all this back to like this relationship of like what relationship do you have with food, right? So there's like a lot of emotion around food and eating and meals and time with family and all that kind of stuff. And so it's like if people put themselves into a position of where they're trying to have like some really like strict and probably unrealistic diet, then they start feeling deprived, right?
Yeah.
So that's where, like I said, so far with me, one of the benefits has been that like I'm not feeling like any sense of deprivation. Also, like I think I mentioned like a few minutes ago, where I was saying it was like body composition matters, right? It's not just about scale weight and dropping scale weight, because I've been messing around already, kind of like not super strict keto, and actually my calories I think were a little bit too low, but in the first 2 weeks now I've already dropped, like I jumped on the scale 2 days ago, and I think I dropped 15 pounds of scale weight.
Nice.
But I already know is this all just water, right? It's water and glycogen, because it's like in the first 24 hours you burn through like all your stored up glycogen. I mean, think about like how much like a 5 gallon bucket, or even a gallon bucket of corn syrup would weigh. Right? I mean, there's a weight that's associated with the mass of that syrup, right? So it's like this stored glycogen is the same thing. So it's like just because I dropped 15 pounds on the scale, like if I went back to eating like the same level of carbohydrates that I was eating before, I'd put all that weight back on overnight. So it's not like real weight. That's why people need to change their mindset away from like just focusing on the scale. Like the scale is one metric that we might want to track, but inches and your performance, like what you were saying, is another one.
Yeah.
What were you saying before about the guy that was talking about fat black belts?
Yeah. So over on Whistle Kick Radio, it's a martial arts podcast that Jeremy Lesnick runs. What was that episode called again? He did an episode 2 weeks ago. It was like so he has like his long interviews, and then he'll do a second episode during the week where it's like under 20 minutes. So this one was like a 13-minute rant. It was called The Paradox of Overweight Martial Artists. So I mean, basically talking about fat black belts. I mean, he had, if you listen to Jeremy's podcast, he has to have his fancy way of saying everything very politically correct. But It's really fat black belts. And so I listened to it, and I was really surprised that I was like really offended. Um, I know other martial artists who were, personal trainers, so basically kind of doing what we both want to do. And I've gotten this from them too, that like, oh well, this guy's skill is really good, but he's fat. He's really fat. You can't be a martial arts teacher if your belly hangs over your waist. And I'm like, wait a minute now. We need to be really clear on what it means to be a martial arts expert. Where does body composition or your level of fitness? Martial arts is about fighting. Does this person have the goods, right?
Right.
And secondly, how do you know what their level of fitness is just based on looking at them? Because I wanted to do a video response to Jeremy, and I was going to show there's like the video of the fat guy that's like tricking, like he's doing all the backflips,
Oh yeah, yeah,
flip
yep.
kicks and stuff. Or, well, I mean, I don't really want to go here, but the first time I saw Sifu, it was a video of him with some big Russian guys,
Right.
and he's throwing people, and I was like, well, he's just a big like powerhouse bear looking guy, like that's why he can throw him around. And then when I actually saw Sifu, like how fast he's moving at his age, and and when he touched me and I'm about to fall on my face, and I'm like, he's not doing anything. Like, how is this happening? What is I mean, he's an old man. I mean, Sifu's old. He's a grandfather. So I'm like, you can't look at somebody and judge their skill. Now, granted, I'm not, we're not karate guys. I don't know what all goes into a black belt test, but it just, so that's where I was like, well, maybe Jeremy has a point. Because at one point he says these guys that he's talking about specifically in the karate community, if they had to do their black belt tests over again, they wouldn't be able to do it. So I understand that aspect. It's like their level of fitness for their art. It's like you get the belt, you let yourself go. But but he called it the paradox of overweight martial artists. And I was like, you can't just say you do martial arts shouldn't be overweight, because how do you, there's so many factors that go into being overweight and losing weight. Like I
Right.
was doing this 5-3-1 thing for the entire month of June. And because I had personal stuff going on that you know about, I wasn't losing weight. And then last week I jump on the scale after all of this stuff is over and done, right? Instant 5 pounds has dropped off of me. Like, because I didn't have that stress on me anymore.
Right.
Like,
Right.
situation's done. Same workouts. Hadn't changed anything. Just I'm getting better quality of sleep. I'm not stressed out over this one situation. 5 pounds gone.
Right. Yep. Which is another thing that people are like need to like consider, right? Is that like you're gonna have, like I said, it's gonna have a cost on your lifestyle. It's gonna be no more like sleeping 5 hours a night. Now you're gonna need to get like 7, 8, maybe up to 9 hours of sleep. You're gonna have to like find a way to deal with your stress, because like as long as those stress levels are high, cortisol's high, you're gonna be in a state, like a physiological state, where you're more prone to be storing those calories as fat, and where you're going to be more prone to making like less wise choices as far as like what it is that you're putting in your mouth. But I think like what you're saying though is like since we both come from like martial arts background, that it's like, okay, again, people like this just came up in the Facebook group, the can't remember if I think it was the Fudging Project. So are you familiar with that group?
Yeah, I don't think I'm in it anymore.
Yeah, so yeah, and that's fine. But somebody had like made a post about that you should be training Tai Chi hard, and you should be sweating and this that and the other thing, and I'm like, well, you know skill acquisition is not and should not be a workout, right?
Yeah.
Even if you're doing conditioning, like even conditioning needs to be done like smart.
Yeah.
You know, we're looking for like a result, right? Not just biofeedback. You know, unless the biofeedback is the result. Like if you're happy, like you feel like, okay, I'm tired, I'm sweaty, that means I'm happy, right? Okay, if that's what you want, then that's fine. That's the result like that you were wanting. But as far as especially like when it comes to like as far as like skill acquisition, I mean, martial arts skill is about one thing: motor control, right? It's a central nervous system skill. The rest of it, you know, as far as like being lean or, you know, being in shape or whatever, I mean, it's like those are all entirely different factors, right?
Mhm.
And maybe like if you're a competitive martial artist and you're going to be going into the ring and you need to be as strong as possible at the lightest body weight possible so that like you're in, you have basically a competitive advantage, you know, because you're really strong at your body weight, then that's something that, you know, you need to consider.
Yeah.
But otherwise, they're two different things, right? And it's like, you know, like I said, is that skill essentially comes down to motor control,
Yeah.
right? Is entirely different than being lean and even necessarily like being strong. Because I mean, there's some people that you know, like they might be really strong in certain lifts, right? But they're not like, because of course strength is also to an extent is also like motor control,
Yeah, it's a
right?
skill.
Or at least, right, but is you know, it's kind of a slightly different thing there. I mean, what would you say about that?
Well, I'm just thinking about what you said as far as motor control. When I hear motor control, I'm thinking, okay, I want to be efficient with this movement. So if like in Guangping form that Brian teaches, right? The opening move, it's an arm bar, right? So if I'm practicing the application and okay, I'm an arm bar, I'm either gonna break your arm, I'm gonna hip toss you, throw you. At some point, I don't want that to be a workout. Initially, learning it and doing it with a partner who's resisting, but over time, I should be getting more efficient with that, which means it takes less effort. Or use a more fitness example. I used to tell this one girl, I was like, every time you do a kettlebell swing, you burn a calorie. And I had her, there was like kind of bro science explanation behind that is I had a heart monitor on and I had figured out like how many calories I burned in a workout and how many swings I did. So for me, it was like a quarter of a calorie per swing. But I said, well, that's because I'm more conditioned. I'm more efficient with this. My body doesn't work as hard as yours does, right? And so that's the same deal. Is like I'm used to doing this movement, this workout. So over time, it's going to get easier. So either I got to lift a heavier kettlebell, I got to do more swings, I got to change the duration, something, right? And so like Jeremy was talking, and he's like, well, some of these people they don't do this, and they're not working on their training because they're busy teaching. And I'm like, okay, so you're talking about martial arts people who are running a business. That's stress. They're mostly teaching white belts or beginner material over and over again. So they're getting more efficient with that. So it's like they're doing work. It's just they become increasingly more efficient at doing the things that they do while dealing with possibly increased stress. So, you know, why would you say they're lazy if maybe they just don't have time? Or like I said, and like you said, this whole looking fit and condition versus being fit and condition for martial arts, they're not the same. Like everybody's not going to look like freaking Bruce Lee just because
Right.
they do a couple of roundhouse kicks.
Well, and then, you know, the other thing to think about too is like, or to remember is like, no matter what, it's like there's still like people, still living like in the same conditions, you know, as everyone else. It's like when it comes down to it, like we got to keep it real. It's hard to not get fat in America. You know, it's like, or like even like in the West, you know, it's like we're surrounded by these like engineered hyper palatable foods that are like nutrient sparse and energy dense that just lend themselves to making you fat. Like they're easy to overeat, right? And then it's like just because like they learned like a certain skill over here, you know, doesn't mean that they automatically know anything about like nutrition and eating, you know, because we've gotten so far away from, you know, our traditional diets and lifestyles that, like I said, it's hard. You know, you have to work. That's why now, like maybe people do need coaches, you know, to get started or to follow a program. You know, so this is like the benefit maybe of something like the Amazing 12, like what we were talking about earlier, is because if they have like some basics of like this is how, you know, you need to start thinking about some changes in your eating, right? Because that, you know, like a lot of people, like I was talking to this chick that like she comes from like kind of more of like a well, she's black. Her boyfriend at the time was black, but her boyfriend at the time was actually her ex-husband. He comes from like a more inner city, like urban background, right? So it's like you're talking about like generations of people that have been kind of like removed from, you know, a traditional way of eating or whatever. And like he didn't get the difference between like juice, like real juice from fruit, and like the, you know, like the Tampico
punch.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah, like punch or whatever. Like he, like in his mind, like that was juice. She was like, "Can you go to this?" And she was telling me about this because she was like, "God, I'm," you know, that was kind of another thing. But I mean, it's like it underscores the point of like that. What's up?
That ain't know the difference between that stuff is punch, man.
right. But the thing of it is I mean, I think that's common.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I think that's normal, and that's across like because, you know, like I said before, it's like we're into like our fourth generation now of people that have been like inundated in a flood of like processed foods. You know what I'm saying? So it's like that's the new normal, even though it's not really normal. Right. So people don't make that connection. Like they just say, okay, that's juice. Right. They don't really understand the difference between that and juice. So that's why I think like some people may need to find a coach to help like kind of bridge that difference, right? But we got way off track on that, but
oh, we're good, man.
But yeah, I mean so that's why I say like you know, as far as diet in the West goes, is like that's why so many people are fat and overweight now. You know, it's like so they don't, because they don't understand those differences anymore. So I mean, I've even kind of go back and forth on some of this stuff, like even like with my dad, where it's like, you know, he makes like certain assumptions about, he makes assumptions basically about what he's eating, thinking like, oh, this is going to be good for me, or this is healthy, right? Or this is going to help me lose weight. And I'm like, where did you get that idea from? That's like way, you know. So yeah, so I mean, it's kind of like like I said, it's the new normal, unfortunately.
And I feel like it's complicated. Like people really have to find what works for them. Like my granddad is 87 now, still playing golf, still getting up walking, probably sleeps 5 hours a night, eats one meal a day, and he will eat freaking Twix candy bars for breakfast and a handful of Oreo cookies for dinner, and then have McDonald's for lunch. And he might only eat like a home cooked meal with his, his new wife, maybe 3-4 times a week. And I'm like, how do you do it, man? Because people don't believe he's 87.
Right.
Like, he's starting to look his age now. Maybe it's because I know how old he is. That and now we're the same height, where he's been like 6'1", 6 feet. So he's always been taller than me. And now it's like, oh shit, granddaddy, we're the same height. I'm 5'7". Like, you're shrinking. Like, what's going on? So like I know, but most people don't. And I'm like,
right.
I don't think I could do it. But I think about, well, there's those years and years where he was eating real meat, real fruits and vegetables that had the nutrients in them,
Right.
So,
yeah. I mean, he's living on his reserves now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then, then the other thing of it is, like you said, it's like complicated because, there's a lot of variables that go into it, because some people do have specific genes that allow them to both deal with, basically that they're more carbohydrate tolerant, right? It's like they can eat like all that kind of stuff, and they have like the genetics to be able to handle the elevated blood sugar better than other people. Like, not everybody will have that, and a lot of that is going to depend on like where your ancestors are from. Going back to, like what this guy was saying was that, I know better. So I don't necessarily judge like somebody's skill level, or I'm not going to judge somebody necessarily like as a martial artist based solely on like what their body composition is like, right? Like, because like I said, it's like skill is another thing. But at the same time, if you do let yourself kind of become like overweight, there's like a cascade of health effects that are going to go along with that, like all this metabolic dysfunction, inflammation, like all this thing that has taken like years off of your life and taken health off the end of your life. So it's like, you should still, obviously, like you and I are both into health and fitness, and martial arts. So it's like, of course, from our point of view, of course, we're going to be watching what we eat, trying to stay in shape and like all that kind of stuff, as a whole package. But, even if the skill is there, like with Sifu, it's like his skill level is second to none, right? So I say I've been training with him for like almost 17 years now. And so when he was out here in Arizona, like we were working on some of the, like our higher level stuff for like my next student level. And so, which is it's more free, it's more like more real, like at that point. So I said, okay, let me actually see like what I can do a little bit with Sifu. And he was still like blowing me away. Like with, and I was like, Jesus, I can't believe, how good he really is, and even then you still don't really know, because he has a way of like if you're here, he's going to like bring himself down to like, just like right here, and then so that you're always like chasing him. You never really get to like see like where that skill level is. But of course, he has some issues with his weight. And, so it's like, that's gonna, there's a price. Like you said, it's like eventually end up like you're paying a price on that kind of stuff. Yeah. So,
but I mean, even with that, like Sifu travels a lot. So
Right. Because that again, right.
You can't
Right.
work out when you're flying to Russia and then you got to go to Australia and then you're going to California and
Right. And your sleep is all over the
yeah,
place. Right.
yeah.
And then you
Change
never
the time
have,
zone.
yeah, you never have like a steady, that's like, so like, what was it? I think like 4 years ago when I first quit like my full-time job to like start to transition into like doing Elitron like as a full-time coach and that kind of thing. Initially like we had moved back east, like back to where I'm from in central New York. And like my schedule was all over the place because I didn't have a chance to like get into a routine, and so it's like I couldn't get any training done. I was like running around trying to put fires out all the time. And that's when I learned, because like a lot of times like routines get a bad rap, like, oh, you're stuck in a rut or whatever. But, it's like you can't get anything done without a routine.
Yeah.
It's like because like having a routine like makes certain things like more efficient, and it's like you need to be able to know, like, okay, like at this block of time, I'm gonna work out, and at this block of time, I'm gonna like make my meals, and then at this block of time is when I'm gonna train, like my martial arts or my meditation or whatever. And it's like even like on retreat, like at the monastery, like when I've been on the meditation retreats or like the monks for, let's say, like even though like because we're talking about now like mindfulness meditation, right? It's like mindfulness meditation all about being in the present moment. Well, when are you going to have time to sit down and practice if you don't have at a monastery they have a strict schedule, and it's the same schedule like 7 days a week, right? So yeah, so like when that's another thing that you might need to think about in terms of like, like what effect is your current routine or your current schedule having on your health, having on your weight, and like what changes might you need to make? Like if you need to lose weight or something like that, or you need to get in shape, like what changes are you going to have to make in your routine to accommodate that? Because something, you're going to have to change something somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Exactly. That was one of the reasons I said I decided I need to hit the reset button and go back to where I was 3 years ago. As I said, you know what? I had a nice routine. Get up, train, go to work. And I really hit that routine, and then I just disrupted everything. I'm gonna leave this job, I'm gonna go back to school, do these other things, and then I had other things. Oh, you got to do this class, you got to do this internship, and I'm like, okay, well, the routine I thought I was gonna have, I don't have it all now.
Right.
And then oh, well, now I'm doing this YouTube thing, and YouTube threw my routine, my training routine off completely. Even though now you got all day, make a video, workout, train. Well, maybe today a video takes longer.
Right.
I don't feel like making a video today, or I'm sitting all day coming up with an idea, writing, and I was like, you know what? Doing YouTube throws my training routine off, and training comes first. Kelly was out here. We talked about like there are certain things, I can't remember the word he used, but it's like certain things that are non-negotiable. And he was like, if you really want to advance with mindfulness stuff, the Ely Chin stuff, it has to be non-negotiable as far as training. You'll have little hiccups here and there, things. Okay, I got to take care of family things, got to take care of professional things that cuts in. But for the most part, it's like, if this is what you want to do, gotta be non-negotiable. And I've always kept that in mind. Like, these things cut into training. I gotta, this thing is making a living, but if it's cutting into training, I gotta find a new way to make a living so that I can train. Because the whole training thing becomes a lifestyle. It becomes you, right? The fruits of it. And it's like, if I'm not doing this, then I'm not being not developing me, which affects everything else.
Right.
Look at the same thing with when it comes to weight loss and changing your body, changing your mind, improving your health. It has to become non-negotiable.
Right. So on that note, let's transition here real quick. Let's move on to our science section because we are running along.
You should put your faith in the Lord.
Oh, right. I don't believe in God. I believe in science. Yeah, let's talk a little bit about science, and then we'll start wrapping up this show. So, in this segment is where we discuss a scientific research paper that pertains to health, wellness, mindfulness, fitness. And in this week's episode, I wanted to talk about this study on glucosamine. So probably everyone is familiar with the supplement glucosamine and chondroitin. Sometimes it'll come with MSM. Most people take it for their joints. I guess the idea is, especially like with the chondroitin, I think it comes from shellfish, that it's supposed to help like rebuild your joints. But this the title of this study is called "The Use of Glucosamine and Chondroitin in Relation to Mortality," and it was originally published, it looks like, in the European Journal of Epidemiology. So this study is actually a few years old. It's from August of 2012. So this is not the only, what I want to point out about this one, this is not the only study actually that showed this with glucosamine. So the thing about glucosamine is that the evidence to support its use for joint pain is kind of sketchy. It doesn't really appear to have as much benefit as what they say it does. But ended up.
When we get done, I wanted to comment on that.
Okay. Is it relevant? You want to put it out there right now?
Yeah. So Jerry Branham, he's been on Mike and Sincere's podcast probably 2 or 3 times. He has like this journal that he does monthly on supplements and stuff. So he talked about glucosamine studies, and he said that, and I was going to ask like if you knew how long they were taking it in this study, but he says in a lot of the studies they'll take it for like a month, 30 days. And he said to get the full benefits from taking glucosamine, you need to take it for 90, at least 90 days. So he said the studies, they don't take it long enough to reap the full benefit.
Well, in this study, it was a prospective study. So it lasted like 6 years, I think.
Okay. Yeah.
They started. Yeah, they started it in 2000, and they entered into the study between 2000 and 2002, and the study concluded in 2008. So it was, between like 8 to 6 years, depending on like when you went into the study. And it involved 77 and a half, so almost 80,000 participants. So it was a pretty good study size. So that should like accommodate for like any variation in the population. In terms of like if they were only using like this segment of the population, like only like rich white people, or they were only studying like the effects in like poor black people, because those would be 2 very different populations. But this one, in a study of like 77,000 people, should cover like a spectrum. And they were like between like 50 and 75 years old, 76 years old. And it followed up with them like over the course of 6 years. There was a total of 5,362 deaths. So then what they did was they adjusted for like different causes of death among this population that was taking glucosamine versus, I'm assuming, a control. And what they found was that like glucosamine, like supplementing with glucosamine, had a significant effect on the rate of death. So basically, the people that were taking glucosamine lived longer. And let me see, it was a large risk reduction for death from respiratory disease, which is interesting, and also was a significant decreased risk of death from cancer. So it wasn't in this study. This was just one of the studies that when I found out that glucosamine, supplementing with glucosamine was basically a life extender, then I started searching for studies that supported that. This was one that came up. But what they think right now is responsible is that glucosamine technically, has glucose in the name, right? So it's kind of a form of sugar, but the molecule, I think, is structured in such a way that the body can't really use it. Like the energy is locked up in the molecule. And so when you ingest the glucosamine gets in your system, basically, like it helps simulate some of the effects of a low carb diet. And so, in other words, it helps like control. I'm not sure like if it actually controls your blood sugar, but it helps like systemic inflammation go down. And I can't remember exactly, but it had to do something to do with like the way that cellular respiration starts taking place. So, in other words, instead of like shuttling like more sugar into the cell and through the mitochondria, which is like really stressful on the mitochondria, it was forcing them to create more energy from amino acids, or not amino acids, sorry, fatty acids. And like I said, so then it basically overall started to simulate some of the effect of a low carb diet. So if you want to supplement with some glucosamine, you might not see as much result in joint pain as you might like, but you still could get some really good life extension benefits from it. And like I said, there's a host of studies now that have observed this effect. So it seems to be pretty reproducible, which is important, right? And it's it's actually happening in a real population because like usually like human studies are hard to do because a lot of times they'd be like unethical or whatever. But since this product's already in the market and people can voluntarily take it or not, then now they're comparing like the different populations and see, hey, like this stuff actually works for life extension. So actually, I need to let Sifu know about that too, because just from the significant decreased risk of death from cancer, that's a huge one.
Yeah.
And let me see. It also says use of glucosamine with or without chondroitin was associated with reduced total mortality and with reductions of several broad causes of death. So in other words, like take glucosamine, you probably live longer. Like provided you don't get hit by a bus, which is it's like of course glucosamine, just like any other supplement, do your research, make sure that you're getting a good clean product, from a trusted manufacturer. Don't buy the garbage like grocery store brand name stuff.
Yeah.
So I thought that was like really super interesting.
Yeah, and make sure you take it long enough for it to have an actual effect, beneficial effect.
Right, because again, it's medicine, not magic. Of course, it's not really medicine, but it's a supplement. It's not magic, right? So you can't expect to just pop one pill and have an overnight change.
Yeah. Because I took the studies don't show that it helps with arthritis or joint issues, but I took it for a week a long time ago, back when I was playing ball all the time, and I was like, the stuff doesn't work. I don't feel anything.
Right.
And now I'm hearing, you need to take it at least 3 months and then see. And if you're taking it for, increased lifespan, people were doing it for this. It was a 6-year study. So, you need to be in for the long haul. Just think of it as like an aspirin a day and forget about it.
Right. So, well, I think that that's going to do it for this week's episode. So we're going to start wrapping up. Don't forget, if you would like to support the show on Patreon, go ahead and check out the video description below. We will have notes from this episode, from this entire episode, in the video description below. If you guys have any questions that you'd like us to answer about health and fitness, meditation, health and wellness, go ahead and drop those in the comment section below, and we'll tackle those in a future episode of the Embodied Mind podcast. Don't forget to check out Prince on YouTube and Instagram at Urban Acolyte TV, and on YouTube, on Twitter, is it just at Urban Acolyte? I think it is, right?
Yeah, and y'all can, if you want like more specific stuff related to martial arts, holler at me on Golden Bell Training. I'm bringing back my original YouTube channel. So
awesome.
I got a whole lot of Bruce Lee stuff that's going to be coming out the month of July.
Right. So I'll look forward to checking out some of that when you start releasing those videos. And then, as always, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Ash Higgs. And we should put links in the video description below to be able to find us on our social media profiles. That's going to do it for this episode. As always, thanks for watching. We'll catch you guys next time.
All right. See y'all.